of a killer. I drop bombs like Hiroshima.
Somebody said, look at LeakYou video. What the fuck is LeakYou? Is it like a site? What's LeakYou? LeakYou. Is it a YouTube channel? Oh, shit. Oh, all right, bet. Here we go.
Please hit the like. Thank you.
One, two, three, four.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I hope you all have had a fantastic week. Coming through for a very important live stream. We need to talk about some major news that has broke in the UFO community recently. And you may be hearing a term around the news spoken as Immaculate Constellation. Okay. Immaculate Constellation, a very interesting term, phrase that it purports to be a very high level, top secret, classified program that is operating outside of Congress. And we're going to get into a little bit more on that. But you all, I want to show you a small clip here, and then we're gonna dig a little deeper. Shout out to the Weaponized podcast that's hosted by Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp. This particular clip went viral with the help, I think, of News Nation as well. Special shout out to News Nation and Ross Coulthart, even Chris Cuomo, who News Nation has been at the front, at the center, trying to put legitimacy on to this entire topic, which has been treated like a conspiracy theorist heaven, for decades. And pretty much until recently, in the last few years, when you spoke or talked about anything around UFOs or aliens or non-human intelligence, reptilians, different types of beings, you were mocked, you were ridiculed, you were laughed. And if you did content on it, such as myself, we, have not been taken seriously. I've had several strikes to my channels, videos mysteriously get taken down, all kinds of weird stuff happens, and you get pushed down in the algorithm. And in the last, 2 years especially, there's been a huge amount of momentum in regards to the UFO topic. We've had a lot of very reputable, whistleblowers that have been coming out, very high-level government officials talking about various programs. Just take a look at my channel, the LeakYou.com channel. We've talked a lot about this topic for many, many years, and it seems like only now are we getting, is it being taken as, serious? So I appreciate networks like News Nation who are taking their resources. They're there to report news events, and they're including the topic of UFO and UAPs and non-human intelligence, and they're taking it serious, and they're pushing this out to the people. And I really commend them for that, because I would have to say they are the first major news organization that I've seen really do this. I know that in Las Vegas, I think it's 8 now, they, George Knapp, I believe, I'm not sure which station it is that he works out of over there. I think he still works, from there from time to time. But he was originally the person who brought out Bob Lazar back in the 80s. You all remember, late 80s. We didn't even know what Area 51 was. Nobody knew. Nobody had heard of Area 51. And now here it is, all these years later, it's 2024. And everything that Bob Lazar said is essentially been found, in my opinion, to be factual. And he has never changed his story. And it's pretty incredible that the government initially denied the existence of Area 51, and then Bob Lazar comes out, and then they're forced to acknowledge the existence of a very secret military base. Anyway, you all check out this clip, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about this top secret program that you all need to be paying very close attention to. There's going to be some more hearings in the Congress in less than a month.
In this week's episode of Weaponized,
let's say there's a document that has been referenced in some reports.
Michael Schellenberger has said there's a 20-something page document.
Let's say there's a document.
Let's be honest with our audience. You have been exposed to the entirety of the document. Is that correct?
All right. Yeah, I've seen it.
From the very get-go, we have been in the know that we have been trying to exploit derivative technologies of UAP. Is that factual from where you're sitting?
Yeah.
Okay. I am directly aware of the totality of this report and information being in person given to certain members. I'm not saying of Congress or Senate, certain members, and that I was present.
Now that it's out, how can it possibly, how can anyone hope to quash the story?
Okay. I need to crack a beer. Because we're right now, you have now brought up
that's where it was
risk
leading.
and threats.
Yeah.
Okay. You are asking me, and I'm sorry, I feel like a robot right now, but I have been on guard for
this is our insurance policy right here.
Okay. I've been notified of very specific and direct and detailed threats against my life, as well as against anybody who may have information, assets, or contact with additional whistleblowers or individuals who are aware of this program. So much so that I have taken action through law enforcement.
Do you have in place what you might call a dead switch, a system whereby information about this and other matters that we've collected over the years would be disseminated if something were to happen?
Okay, I will not mince words. We have had in place for quite some time, unrelated to this story of Immaculate Constellation, that if you or I are removed from the equation, that you have absolute, uncontrolled, catastrophic disclosure of information that would be dangerous to the United States of America, that would be dangerous to global policy, that would be dangerous in many ways. And it benefits everybody to not fuck with journalists doing their job and sanitizing information prior to the good of public knowledge with no harm to the United States of America, putting it out.
Interesting, right? All right. So let's talk about this a little bit. And we're gonna, go into more detail by looking at another clip by News Nation in which there's been an independent journalist named Michael Schellenberger, who has essentially wrote a report or an article, and essentially this leaked whistleblower report that is referred to as, you're hearing the term Immaculate Constellation. This leaked report by a high-level official, former official, whatever. We don't know the person's identity yet. Some do. Says that the Pentagon is operating a secret UFO retrieval program called Immaculate Constellation. Again, this is according to independent journalist Michael Schellenberg. Okay. Now, the report has been, revealed. The report, revealed really for the first time the name of an alleged UAP program, Immaculate Constellation, stating that the executive branch has been managing UAP issues, unidentified aerial phenomenon, without congressional knowledge or oversight, possibly for decades. Now, Department of Defense spokesperson Sue Go has denied records of the alleged program in a statement that was given to News Nation on this most recent Tuesday. This was exactly what she wrote. Quote, "The Department of Defense has no record, present or historical, of any type of SAP called Immaculate Constellation." So the Department of Defense is still denying that this program exists. But is that so surprising? Not to me, because there are programs that operate outside of even the Aero office. They're not even in the know of some of the things that these top black secret, these top secret projects, even the Office of Aero is not in the know. They have not been read into these, programs. Now, Mr. Schellenberger told News Nation's Ross Cohart, who has, again, shout out to him. He has really been put front and center with this UFO topic. And he's been staying on it hard. But Schellenberger told Ross that he has been in touch with this whistleblower, whose exact role and other identifying details, including gender, that he is withheld because they fear what could happen if this information was publicly known. This person apparently discovered this material regarding Immaculate Constellation by accident, and that this was not something that they had expected to encounter. And that fear is why Schellenberger says the whistleblower did not share intelligence imagery showing these UAPs. But when I tell you that it is alleged that this particular program is a parent program, and that there is data, high resolution data, video, pictures of not only different crafts, but I've also read non-human intelligence, meaning different entities or beings. We're talking high resolution images that are gathered from a variety of different things, from satellites to, sonar, different radar, et cetera, right? You'll hear more about this. Now, this unnamed whistleblower has said that the Department of Defense created Immaculate Constellation back in 2017 after a New York Times report revealed another program known as the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, also known as ATIP. So they created this Immaculate Constellation program after the New York Times dropped the dime on the ATIP program. Now, the whistleblower report cites evidence, including allegations about UAP sightings collected by the Pentagon and intelligence documenting first-hand encounters with UAPs or UFOs that are kept in a database that is used by the intelligence community. Now, just imagine something here. That database, which is probably SQL or Oracle or something of that nature, imagine it sitting on a server, that has Kaspersky antivirus installed on it. I wonder if the United States government has thought about that at all. I know that they finally made the proper decision to remove Kaspersky off all of all government machines. But man, I had been saying for like 10 years before they finally made the decision to do that. I never could understand why our own government was running, Kaspersky antivirus, which is a Russian-owned antivirus that is completely owned and operated and controlled within Russia. And when you got to understand, antivirus is low-level stuff on a computer. If we're talking, the OSI model, for example, we're talking about layer 3 here, 3 and 4. Antivirus is going to know about every single file, its size, its file type, just like it's downloading updates to these various servers. It could be potentially taking files and grabbing some of these files, locking them, and even uploading some of these files back to Kaspersky off of these servers that Kaspersky was installed on. So I hope it wasn't ever installed on the servers that are hosting this database that has been used by the intelligence community for this program called Immaculate Constellation, and I'll leave it at that. Now, the report is also said to describe various UAPs in detail, including one where orbs surrounded an F-22, forced it out of its patrol area, and another incident in which a crew of a Navy aircraft that saw an orange-red sphere descend from a high altitude, after which they described a sense of unease and feeling as if they had just snapped out of a trance. Now, the Pentagon has long denied claims that there's any evidence to indicate any non-human, alien, or extraterrestrial intelligence has visited Earth. Matter of fact, in a report back in May, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, also known as AARO, said that reports of unidentified aerial phenomena, UAP, are the result of mistaken identification of drones, top-secret projects, or other known aerial objects. AARO said that long-standing claims that the Pentagon is secretly studying UAPs are a result of circular reporting from a group of people who believe the rumor to be true despite a lack of evidence. And many of us just feel it's absolutely ridiculous, right? The Pentagon is straight out just lying to us. They think we are too stupid. And I will say this, and I say this every time I talk about this topic. If there's anything that exists in this world that potentially is a threat to any human being, we all have a right to know about it. And I really, really encourage those that are in the positions of know, right? These journalists, these people that operate in the UFO community, please do not hold the information for yourself and not share it or use the information for the purposes of disclosing it to the world, because it makes you just as bad as what we're fighting right now against our own United States government and trying to get the truth out there. One thing that really just irritates me is when we've got people in the UFO community who purposely are holding information and for the purposes of feeling powerful, as if, I'm the only one that has this information. No, please share this. That's the whole reason a lot of us are here. It's the whole reason why we have platforms dedicated to talking about these things. And we're here to, get this disclosure really pushing. And you all, there's some momentum behind this that is so momentous, so monumental, I should say. There's no going back, I don't think. I think that November 13th, which is the day that there is going to be another hearing regarding this program, Immaculate Constellation. That's going to happen in a month, less than a month from now. We're going to have another, hearing in Congress. We're here to report on that, to talk about that, to discuss it with our communities, et cetera, et cetera. So when I hear stories of, people in the UFO community giving speeches to the rich, the powerful, and not sharing that information with the people, it really bothers me, right? And I'm not saying any names, but I'll leave it there. Now, rumors about the government and unidentified objects have existed since the end of World War II. And of course, the famed Roswell incident of 1947. Believers have pointed to errors in the report and have casted doubt on the validity of a lot of these claims. Skeptics, on the other hand, have said persistent rumors about government UFO programs are a result of government disinformation and even social contagion, like the satanic panic of the 1980s. But listen, this new whistleblower is not part of that circular reporting, according to Mr. Schellenberger. He said, quote, "I am confident of that. This person did not know the other individuals who verified the name of this program. It does not fit the theory of social contagion." Now, those who have suggested that we need to look more closely at UAPs include high-ranking officials like Assistant Secretary of Defense Christopher Mellon, former Director of National Intelligence John Ratcliffe, even if they stop short of saying that UAPs are alien in nature. Now, in 2023, Air Force officer David Grush absolutely lit the world on fire and reignited interest in UAPs by claiming a secret UAP retrieval program that was being operated by the Pentagon without the public or Congress being aware. His statement sparked a congressional hearing on the subject, and a bipartisan UAP caucus formed in the House of Representatives, with lawmakers seeking to understand what programs exist and how the Pentagon would be funding these UAP efforts. Others have since come forward with their own stories, including former military intelligence officer Luis Elizondo and retired Army Colonel Carl Nell. Lawmakers from both parties have come forward to press the Defense Department for more transparency and have said that the earlier hearing was not the last the public can expect to see on UAPs. Schellenberger also, noted that efforts to discredit those who have come forward to speak about UAPs have ruined people's lives. There's no justification that has been given for this level of secrecy, and he also recommended that whistleblowers approach journalists or congressional staffers, saying that protections for whistleblowers who go to AARO or the Inspector Generals for Defense or Intelligence are just not adequate. There's a lot of talk, a lot of incidents of people in the UFO community who have ended up dead, unalived, no longer here. Let's hear a little bit more from Michael Schellenberger and Ross Cohart on this Immaculate Constellation program.
Pentagon is illegally hiding secret UFO programs from Congress, sources allege. Tell me more, sir.
Hey, great to be with you, Ross. Yeah, this is an incredible story. So a new whistleblower has come forward with a written report that this person has shared with some members of Congress and with me. And the report is quite extraordinary. It says that there is an unacknowledged special access program called Immaculate Constellation, which is the parent program, is the language used for exactly what you said: UAP, crash retrieval, reverse engineering, and apparently a very large database of high quality photographs, videos, infrared videos, apparently much more sophisticated documentation of many more UAP encounters than have been released. And so the article is really about the allegation that this program exists and that it has been withheld from Congress illegally. I think it's important for viewers to understand that the first article of the United States Constitution requires congressional oversight of all of the activities of the executive branch of the United States government. So whether or not you think there are extraterrestrials or non-human intelligence or anything, even if you think that all of this is just some sort of advanced craft, the allegation here by a new whistleblower verified by other sources in a position to know is that the Pentagon the Defense Department has withheld, kept secret this information from Congress, which is a violation of the Constitution and illegal. So I think that what we're looking at here is really a story about the abuse of power, including in potential disinformation from the Pentagon, just as much as it is this other question of what exactly are people seeing in UAPs.
Now, Michael, this is clearly all rubbish because the Pentagon has assured us as recently as May this year that there is no evidence that any non-human, alien or extraterrestrial intelligence has visited Earth. And that's a formal finding by the ARRO office, the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, which is the Pentagon's UFO investigation office. It assessed that the quote inaccurate claim that the US government is reverse engineering extraterrestrial technology and is hiding it from Congress is in large part the result of circular reporting from a group of individuals who believed this to be the case, despite the lack of any evidence. So where's your evidence?
Yeah, and I think it's important for listeners to know that the All Anomaly, the All Domain Anomaly Resolution.
It's a stupid name. Let's just be honest about it, Michael. It's a stupid bloody name.
This was created by Congress, particularly Senators Gillibrand and Senator Rubio, to get to the bottom of the phenomenon and find out what the Defense Department knows. They put out that report, which you quoted from. That is a very thin report. I mean, anybody who is familiar with the case studies on UAP sightings over the last, particularly since World War II, but over time, knows that that is a very thin report. It's a dismissive report. It doesn't seriously deal with many cases. I think that there is the potential for a significant amount of circular reporting. As a journalist, you're always worried about that. This new whistleblower is not part of that circular reporting. I am confident of that. They also, this person did not know the other individuals who verified the name of this program. So I do believe this, and I have checked the credentials of this whistleblower. They are who they say they are. And so it is not part of it does not fit the theory of social contagion. I think the other thing, sorry, go ahead.
No, so I just wanted to double check. Let's talk first about what you can tell me about the credentials of your whistleblower without compromising any of your sources. So clearly, you have somebody in Congress who has briefed you on the contents of this whistleblower report, and they've told you who this whistleblower is. Have you been able to speak to that whistleblower yourself?
Yes, I am in direct contact with the whistleblower. I have verified, I've interviewed the person several times. I have verified their credentials and who they are. either in government or as a government contractor. I'm not going to say which, just to keep the universe of potential positions large, as I'm also not revealing their gender or anything else about them to protect them. I think you know, and your viewers may know, witnesses and whistleblowers on this topic, like other topics, but on this topic, they're very scared and their fear is very palpable. I don't think that they're faking it or that they're lying about their fear. I'm also comfortable saying that this person discovered this material accidentally. This was not something that they had expected to encounter. They encountered a large body of information that they describe as a database of this information that's available to others in the intelligence community, in the defense community. So there are, we've heard about that these databases must exist, but the allegation here is that there is a significant body of evidence that has not been made available to Congress in violation of the Constitution, a significant body of evidence that was not included in that Arrow report to the public and to Congress. And so that's a serious allegation in and of itself. So I think before we get to what is the phenomenon, and that's a very important conversation, this is in some ways, this is a process story. It's an abuse of power story, and it's pointing to the inadequacy of whistleblower protections at large in the U.S. government. That's also something verified to me by people in Congress, either as members or as staffers, who say that they understand why whistleblowers don't feel comfortable because they don't have the protections they need in order to come forward. So I think the burden is on Congress to protect these brave individuals who are understandably scared to go public because they have had their security clearances, their professions, and in some cases, according to some people, their lives threatened.
Now, Michael, when I did the introduction to you earlier, I very specifically used a section of your first article from September 2023, where you named Stephanie O'Sullivan, a former Associate Deputy Director of the CIA and Principal Deputy Director of National Intelligence in the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. And you stated that she was aware of a UAP crash retrieval and reverse engineering program, but that she had denied its existence to Senator Marco Rubio. Now,
which is illegal.
I want to focus on that for a moment because of something I know that I'm not going to discuss in detail here. You've had no reason, have you, to doubt the accuracy of that assertion at all?
None.
The allegation on its face is that an officer of the US government has lied criminally to a senator of the United States.
Yes. A very serious accusation.
You know, the thing I find incredible is you made that allegation back in September last year, like a year ago, and absolutely nothing has happened as a result of it. Yep. It's I guess what I find depressing is the lack of interest from Congress, at least publicly. You know, we get the odd quotes from Ask a Poll, Matt Laszlo, as he doorstops politicians, and they say, you know, we've got UFO hearings coming, and, you know, obviously we're keen to get to the bottom of this. But where is the vigor? Where is the understanding of the degree of criminality that you talked about in your original article and you're now talking about in this new article? Because what we are talking about here is a constitutional travesty. It's a breach of, as you say, Article 1 of the United States Constitution.
That's right, Ross. And I should say for viewers who don't know, my bread and butter has been on covering abuses of power. We've covered abuses of power, including the weaponization and politicization of the FBI, the CIA, the Department of Homeland Security, on free speech issues, but also on retaliations against whistleblowers. This is absolutely a nonpartisan issue. It doesn't matter your politics. You do not want the agents, the investigative, security, police functions of your government being weaponized for private interests or political interests. That's a very, very dangerous moment. That's how you get totalitarianism. So for me, this is fun. This is first and foremost a story about abuses of power. You might think that what people are seeing, these UAPs are just new military craft and it should be kept secret from the American people. That's fine if you think that. But they still are required by the Constitution to inform members of Congress about those programs. I note in my article that, yes, for super secret programs, you don't notify every member of Congress, but there is something called the Gang of Eight, which are the committee chairman and the ranking minority leader on the House and Senate Defense and Intelligence committees. They are absolutely a requirement to tell them both about unacknowledged special access programs, of which Immaculate Constellation is allegedly one, as well as to notify them of CIA covert operations and other intelligence community operations, including potentially the retrieval or reverse engineering of exotic craft, to use the jargon in congressional legislation. But look, the bottom line here is that Congress needs to show some backbone. The Inspector General of the intelligence community said that whistleblower David Grush's testimony was both urgent and credible in July of 2022. Well, it's over over 2 years ago. Grush is testifying in front of Congress. What's happening? I think that ultimately it's up to journalists like you and me and these brave whistleblowers to and the public to demand that Congress act and do its job and demand transparency and accountability by an intelligence community that on various issues, not just UAPs, is out of control, as outside of congressional supervision.
So your understanding from your source is that Immaculate Constellation is the code name for this unacknowledged special access program, the USAP. Now, let's get into the nerdy talk about what security classifications mean. There's special access programs, which are secrets that are protected, top secret, SCI clearance secrets. Then you've got unacknowledged special access programs. And then you have another category of waived unacknowledged special access programs, WUSAPs. And in the case of WUSAPs, there is, I understand, a very clear exemption for good reasons, for national security reasons, to protect highly classified programs. These WUSAPs are only briefed, I think, orally to members of the Gang of Eight. But the unacknowledged special access programs, USAPs, which is what you say Immaculate Constellation is, there is no reason at all why that could not be disclosed inside a SCIF to the Senate Select Committee for Intelligence, the Armed Services Committee, all of those oversight committees that are part of the constitutional requirements for accountability and transparency. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's right. There was no mention by the new whistleblower or the people that confirmed the existence of Immaculate Constellation that it was a WUSAP. It was simply an unacknowledged special access program. And so it should have been absolutely briefed to the Gang of Eight. I will say that one of the individuals who confirmed the existence of the special access program told me that simply publishing the name unacknowledged, the name Immaculate Constellation would trigger surveillance of me, that it is located, is kept under very tight secrecy in the office of the Secretary of Defense. Obviously, that is a little nerve-wracking. I will say I gave the Pentagon, I emailed the Pentagon with a very detailed description of my article. Last Friday, they asked, in the morning, they asked for more time. I gave them until Monday. Monday, they said they needed until the end of the day Monday. I had not heard from them by the end of the day Monday. So they had almost 5 days to get back to me. And you and I are recording this on Monday evening. So if there is an update to this, hopefully you'll mention that to the viewers. But I have not heard from the Pentagon. If which you can interpret however you like. But I think the bottom line is still the same here. If you believe in democracy, which is ruled by the people rather than ruled by secret police, intelligence, and security forces, this is information that absolutely needs to be briefed by the DoD and or the IC to that Gang of Eight or to a broader committee of Congress.
Now, Michael, I can tell you there's a lot in your article that doesn't come as a surprise to me. I just haven't been able to corroborate with my sources what you've been able to find out about certain code names and what you know about the contents of that program. But what I can tell you is the reference made by your source to the fact that there is a database that's being kept separate, which was discovered. I am told that what the Admiral Tom Wilson memo written by Dr. Eric Davis says is correct, that inside the office of the Undersecretary for Defense Intelligence, there was, and I'm told still is, a completely separate database that you would understand and your source would understand goes by the name Immaculate Constellation. And it's interesting to hear from you so many years later that what Admiral Thomas Wilson stumbled across, and I have to add consistently now denies, is now being proven to be the case, that there was a completely separate database that was locked off from the rest of the Defense Department computer system, which would explain, by the way, why Edward Snowden, when he did his sleuthing, couldn't find anything about it. There is a completely separate database which is kept completely airlocked from the rest of the Defense Department that contains all of this information relating to the UAP program.
Which means, people, that it is completely, this database and the information that is stored in this database is hosted on servers that are completely segmented off of and on a completely different network, meaning that, and I have a technical background going back decades, right? Which means that if, say, Snowden, or a hacker was in there and was able to get on network and get access to machines on that specific network. Hey there, Rico, good to see you. By this, the database that's hosted on servers that are under this, Immaculate Constellation program, that would be a completely different network. It may not even have any sort of connections to the actual defense, Department of Defense's network. There could be firewalls between the two, or I suspect it probably runs completely segmented as its own network. Sorry about that. It probably runs segmented as its own network all the way around, completely isolated. And that's why no one picked it up. Snowden didn't pick anything up when he was in there. So interesting. Listen, there's only so many database programs that could host a database with this level of information and this type of information, right? We're talking about video, images, even maybe documents. There's only going to be a few choices on the platforms that would be used for something of that nature, meaning, like a Microsoft SQL, an Oracle database potentially. I highly doubt it's on a mainframe. But there's only a few options that exist out there. Okay, there's only a few options. So note that. And again, I really do wonder, was Kaspersky ever running on those servers that host any data related to Immaculate Constellation? Because if it ever was, the government's got bigger concerns than, it coming out even in Congress's hearing. And I tell you that because that would mean Russia potentially has all of that information. So that is my technical opinion.
Let's go through this. I'm really interested to know more. your understanding is that Immaculate Constellation consists of the capability to detect, quarantine, and transfer UAP and alien reproduction vehicle collection incidents before they are observed and circulated within the military intelligence enterprise, thus serving as a means of enforcing internal information security. Now, I presume UAP is a reference to a non-human craft, correct? If you're one of the millions of dog owners, you're likely aware that maintaining a healthy dog can be complicated. Joint discomfort, bad pee is a reference to a non-human craft, correct?
Well, I don't know, honestly, and I mean, I laugh a little bit because you always have a lot of information when you're writing an article and you're trying to figure out what to keep in and keep out, and I did keep that information in there because that was the information that the whistleblower has in their report. Alien reproduction vehicle. I don't think I'm not sure I'd used that term before. It's obviously going to raise a lot of eyebrows, and I should stress that I'm not saying I know that they exist or that I'm endorsing any other part of the things that have been said about that. But indeed, that is what this person has put in their report to members of Congress, notifying them about this database, which also, Ross, I wanted to mention because earlier I mentioned that there's a significant amount of visual data. However, the whistleblower in their report says that they also includes human intelligence. And so you're also looking at reports. There's one spectacular incident described in the report. I mean, there's several in the report. One of them is of an F-22 being surrounded by UAPs shaped like orbs and effectively escorted. Escorted makes it sound like nice, but sort of forcibly moved out of its mission area by these UAPs. So a real direct engagement by UAPs. I don't know, and the whistleblower is not saying what those UAPs are. The person's not saying that they're, non-human or extraterrestrial. Obviously, if they're Chinese or Russian or Iranian or something, that's a technology that is not out there and should be very alarming for straight defense reasons. But yeah, then the introduction of this term alien reproduction vehicle is effectively a reference to craft that are using not using typical propulsion and using something that is more akin to what people call anti-gravity.
So that's the interesting thing. There's two nomenclatures that we need to define in what your whistleblower's told you goes into his report. There's UAP, and that's grey. We just don't know at this moment. But alien reproduction vehicle, I can tell you, is very, very clearly a reference to a vehicle that has been constructed from non-human technology that is being operated presumably by either private aerospace or the United States government.
Yeah, that's right. And it's the language is very important because if you read what Arrow wrote, there is potentially room within that report for them to be able to, they say we haven't found any evidence of vehicles from extraterrestrials or from other planets. But they do seem to leave open the door potentially to this different category of craft. And so that is one potential is that, for me, as a fairly newcomer to this issue, I was not familiar at all with this discourse, but basically there is this idea, and it is in the whistleblower report, that the United States government is in possession of craft that it has itself made based on UAPs that it has captured, and apparently using anti-gravity as the means for propulsion.
And we have talked in depth regarding that, even going so far as to talk and speak on, I'll go into Reddit, 4chan. There may not be a ton of credibility that comes to reading a post that a whistleblower may put on Reddit or 4chan. But the beauty of Reddit and 4chan is and especially 4chan, is the ability to be anonymous. And there was 2 posts over the last year that were placed on Reddit and 4chan that were mysteriously deleted. And I managed to, get, some screenshots of the entire post, thank goodness, prior to the deletion. Matter of fact, did a couple of videos on these. And, we're talking about UAPs or craft that are built to spec. If we are going to talk about, for example, the 4chan post in which an individual was freely answering questions about anything that anyone would ask about UFOs, UAPs. This person didn't go into details of what they did, but it was obvious that it had something to do with the retrieval and the seeking out of these craft when they hit our atmosphere. Some have referred to them as transdimensional or interdimensional. They phase in and phase out of our reality. They are coming in from a different dimension, leaving into a different dimension, etc., etc. But, the Bermuda Triangle has been an area of interesting lore for decades, right? We've had very mysterious situations in which entire fleets have just disappeared there. And in this very interesting post on 4chan, which again was later deleted mysteriously, there was an talk of what appeared to be some sort of underwater base of some type where these craft come to and fro. And these craft are built to spec, including the tools. Like, say it's a craft that's going to be used to go mine minerals. It's going to be built with the tools in it. It's almost one piece of like not even a 3D printer. It's like it's just, you dipped it into some sort of a liquid and you made this craft without any seams or bolts, even no rivets. It's incredible. But it also insinuated that these same craft return back to these locations and are then broken down. So they in a sense have a job. These craft have a job, a specific task, and they're used for that task. And then once they're done, they break these craft down. Who knows? Maybe they're, who knows? One thing that is mentioned, though, that I thought really interesting, that just happened the other day, there was a man that made a post, a NASA scientist, who said that UFOs or UAPs need to be created in in atmospheres or areas where there is no gravity, in certain temperatures, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm telling you, the first thing that came to my mind was this very interesting talk about this underwater base that appears to be pumping these craft out and building them to spec. And one thing that's also, that was noted in that 4chan whistleblower report was when these craft crash, in a lot of cases, there doesn't seem to be a intent by whatever's operating these craft to actually retrieve them. And in some cases, it's been alleged that craft have been left, just, whole craft just left to be found by U.S. intelligence, and then it's thus been reverse engineered. So, when you think about that, and another reason too, Rico, why an underwater base would be so perfect to build these craft is nothing can get to you out there. Even more information about that particular base that I'm referring to We've actually had a couple of incidents where we sent a submarine, we sent aircraft, we sent military, objects to go and investigate, and they were vaporized. They were vaporized before they even knew. They were dead before they even knew what happened to them. Nothing can get close to this particular base that is operating in the middle of the ocean. And so could that be a potential reason why the Bermuda Triangle is so mysterious and so many planes have disappeared and boats and ships have disappeared? Is there a potential factory that operates in an area, where if these craft are being created under these different atmospheric conditions under the water, is that why maybe some of these ships have disappeared over the years, because they were perceived as a potential threat? Who knows? But there are silos in the government when it comes to this. So the same people that come out and find these craft, right, they have siloed jobs. So there will be someone that'll come out, that'll check the craft. If there's any bodies, they'll take the bodies out. Then there'll be a different team that'll come in and, look in the craft, check for any tools, obtain those tools, take them out. Then there'll be a different team that'll come in and do something else different, or maybe some additional testing. And then there'll be a different team that'll be there to take it away, sort of a thing. And that is intentional by the government to operate in these silos, because it makes it very difficult for information to be really relayed. The reverse engineering of these craft is not done by the same teams that recover them. They don't even, the teams that recover them have no idea what happens after they're recovered, right? That type of silo structure that is so prevalent in the government, and is why some people can be working on something and not know someone's working on something else. It's crazy. But listen, there's going to be a lot more to come on this. And when that Congress hearing happens on November 13th, I'm going to be here for it. I will be broadcasting live on that day. And we will be discussing it in depth. So, I'll probably go ahead and just schedule the live for it in advance. So make sure you subscribe to the channel so that you can get that notification. Now, what you see on your screen is something else that's been really getting a lot of traction lately, known as the jellyfish UFO, right? We've seen a couple of very interesting videos of what appears to be some very strange jellyfish, type UFO. And something that I kind of wanted to show you of this most recent one is, what this really looks like to me? And I know this sounds crazy, but it looks like there are several beings. I don't know if they're robotic in nature. They're hanging from the bottom of this sphere. Now, listen, none of this makes sense to our eyes because we don't understand it enough. This could be very normal to carry a robot underneath a sphere and fly it through the air to these particular beings. It's maybe not normal to us, but it really looks like that. And in some cases, some of these jellyfish UFOs, even this one looks as if there are beings hanging from it, or potentially arms, tentacles. What are these jellyfish UFOs doing flying around? They've got to be doing some sort of reconnaissance of some kind, some sort of recon of some kind. And it kind of goes back to, and this is just me here, but the watchers, right? Always watching, the watchers. And some believe that these beings don't come from space at all. Some believe these beings are all coming from underneath us, from inner Earth, aka Agartha, the old Tartarus, Antarctica, Crystal City. And some believe that these beings are coming from other planets. I am of the opinion that I think a lot of it is coming from up under us, but I don't rule out the possibility that we have beings that do find themselves here around, on, or in Earth from other planets, Miss Magnificent. So that's kind of my belief on that. But they, they're watching us. And it seems like we're not watching them, or at least our government says we're not. And I find it absolutely impossible to believe that we would not be watching a civilization of any type that we know is spying on us. It's so obvious that these things, these craft, these UAPs, some have been referred to as actually being alive in and of themselves. They're like the craft are like organic living objects. They are spying on us. They are abducting people. Thousands, millions of people have been abducted across the world. Some have come home, some have not. People are being abducted for human DNA, for reproduction material, whether that's sperm or ova or eggs from women. And this DNA, this sperm, these eggs are being utilized to create what is known as hybrid beings, which mean they are a mix of, human DNA and other types of DNA. And I know that may sound really strange, but not that you have to be a believer of the Bible, but even going back 5,000 and 6,000 years ago, when the Bible was written, there was talk in several books, even ones that are, in the Apocrypha, that all sorts of horrible things were being done to the animals, to the fish. They were being violated. They were beings being created, hybrid beings from plants and different animals, just monstrous type creatures. And is it, so hard or unbelievable to think? I mean, people are doing homunculuses out there. You got people out there literally putting their DNA in chicken eggs, creating homunculuses. There's something to people, Rico, in which they want to be a creator of something. People want to create something. They want to create another being. There's that fascination that exists. Don't believe for 5 seconds that just because it's illegal in the United States to play around with DNA and create hybrid animals and hybrid things involving human DNA. Don't think for 5 seconds that our U.S. government isn't doing it, in some country somewhere where there is no law against it. There are many countries where there's no law against playing with genetics. We've got people cloning animals to a crisp science at this point, splicing and dicing DNA like it's nobody's business, and they're getting damn good at creating beings by performing these genetic projects, if you want to call it that. Okay. You've heard the horror stories of Dulce, right? Regardless of what some may say resides in Dulce, New Mexico, it has been alleged that there is an underground base going up to 7-8 stories down, in which there are thousands of experiments happening. There were pictures that leaked out allegedly of Dulce showing beans in sacks that were growing. You've heard about, we've talked about Nightmare Hall in Dulce, where some of the most horrible experiments were happening, where people would see beings that were half bat, humanoid looking creatures, beings that needed sustenance, that would have to put their skin in like blood to soak in sustenance because they're unable to eat food, and that does not give them sustenance, right? Nightmare Hall. And there's, we even, there was even a photo that leaked out allegedly out of Dulce where, I mean, you can see, I would refer to them as like crates, like thousands of crates, where it's alleged that there's different creatures that have been created using scientific genetic processes. So yeah, believe me, there are many doctors, many scientists that are, it is their dream to create a being using DNA. They would love to create a, half lion, half bird type of being, a horse with an eagle's head type stuff. There are people that they dream to do it and they dare to do it, and they are doing it. Again, although there's overall, there's a ban in the United States, but an overall scientific ban across the world on doing that sort of a thing, it doesn't mean that every country recognizes that, because they just don't. There's many countries where people can go and do these sorts of genetic projects on these, on DNA. There's nobody that's going to do or say anything about it. And it kind of goes to, you all be careful with giving your DNA to these ancestry databases. I heard earlier today there's some new potential federal law, or there's talk of a law that they want to push through, in which every baby that's born would have a DNA test run. I think that's insane. I think it's insane. For one, that's a lot of DNA swabs. For two, I absolutely don't trust where or what happens to that DNA after that swab has been taken. Okay. And of course, the excuse is going to be, well, at least we'll have a DNA test for each child and we'll know who the parent is. Well, you're going to start seeing people getting arrested for crimes. Okay. We already got police going in the back doors of these ancestries and these 23andMe companies, putting murder cases together based on, the third cousin that matched up in a DNA test over here. You all got to stop submitting your DNA to these companies, because once you give it to them, are you actually reading the fine print of what happens to your DNA? Is it actually being destroyed after they test it? And then even when they test it, the test results are going to be sitting in a database somewhere. But have you ever thought of the potential that your DNA, after it's been tested, is then sent off and utilized in genetic experiments where hybrids are being created and they're part of you? Something to seriously think about. Now, listen, before we get up out of here, you all allow me to pay a few bills if you don't mind. Shout out to the LeakYou community. Please join us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Amazon Music.
Please hit the like. Thank you.
man, listen, you all. Again, there will be more shows, more talk on this topic, this program, this top secret program, Immaculate Constellation, which is a really, really strange name, isn't it? And so, listen, I want to say thank you to each and every one of you that have come through on each platform that I am on. Especially those of you on X, on Twitter. There's like over 100 of you watching right now. And it's kind of crazy because, it's X seems like the only place I can stream and talk about this topic and not be suppressed as far as being shadow banned or having my videos pushed down in the algorithm. Because I experience that on YouTube daily. Anytime I talk about, this type of topic, I feel like, a lot of our videos are pushed down in the algorithm. So, man, thank you to X for what appears to be a little bit more freedom of speech. And the same thing goes for Facebook, right? Between Facebook and YouTube and Instagram, those three platforms are the most policed platforms, that exist, in my opinion. So shout out to those of you on X. I will continue to bring this type of content. So, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you get all of the notifications. You can also find me on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, and Google Podcast. I'm also on iHeartRadio and a couple other places where, I've started updating season 3 of my official podcast, the We Are Not Alone official podcast. And I encourage you all to reach out if you have a story, if you'd like to, discuss a story, especially under the UFO NHI disclosure arena, feel free to email me at LeakYou@LeakYou.com. LeakYou@LeakYou.com. Really easy to remember. And that, includes anyone who's had an encounter with anything of non-human intelligence, android, robotic, organic, biologic, or has seen or has video of craft. I take all sorts of, you can also tag me. I'm on all social media platforms. Just search for LeakYou. But I'm here to help push disclosure as well. That is my ultimate goal at the end of the day, is to help get the truth out there. And I just want to be a part of that. And so that's why, I work so diligently and I talk about these sorts of stories. A lot of vloggers, they're either going to be dedicated to this or they're not going to really talk about it like I do or like some others do who have dedicated podcasts to this topic. People that are dedicating their platforms to this topic, are either obviously critics or they're those that want disclosure and truthful and honest, open dialogue regarding whatever this thing of ours is. I think we all have a right to be in the know of it. So I will say that and leave it at that. But I do appreciate each and every one of you for coming through. I will be live again soon. So make sure you have your notification bells on. Again, I appreciate each and every one of you. If you haven't had a chance, make sure you join my Discord, discord.gg/LeakYou. I'm going to be opening it up for a 24-hour period. I only open it up for 24 hours every once in a while when I'm in the mood. And I will go ahead and open up starting now. So you're able to join into the Discord, discord.gg/LeakYou. You will see an initial folder view. And as we get to know you in the community, you may be granted access to more channels, if you get what I'm saying. So we have a few top secret channels in there. But anyway, guys, thank you for coming through. I appreciate each and every one of you. Until next time.
The judgment sentence that you are an asshole. The trial is over. Thank you, everybody.
Let's play a game. You have 10 seconds to take all your stuff and get out of my life. 10, 9, 8.
God bless you, motherfucker.
You're really smart. Like really, really, really smart like I am.